We begin by seeing a weary woman named Ramona, who watches an old video of her husband David. He recounts what he dreamed. Their house was ready, with everything they needed available to them, and even the children played very happily. The sad woman continues watching the video several times, as she has been a widow for a few weeks and lost her husband in a car accident. Next, her son Taylor calls her, saying that the power in the house is out, and asks his mother to call the electric company to resolve it. He has the responsibility of taking care of almost everything, as now his mother cannot. Ramona offers a small prayer, asking for strength to continue. Then she rises in pain, as she has an injury to her leg and cannot walk normally. She goes to her daughter Annie's room, who is playing house. Meanwhile, Taylor goes out to play with the dog and feed the animals in the barn. He grabs the mail, and when he returns, he begins to prepare the meal for everyone. But things have already started to get difficult, and even the matches have run out. Remembering something, Taylor goes up to the attic of the house and opens a box that has some things belonging to his father, David. He retrieves a lighter and returns to prepare the snack, and even his sister tries to help. Ramona takes her medication and then notices that her cell phone is dead, so she cannot make the call that Taylor requested. She then begins to descend the stairs, despite being very afraid of falling. Upon reaching the kitchen, she calls Annie's attention not to touch knives and warns Taylor to be careful with his sister. Seated at the table, Taylor questions his mother about the power problem, and she explains that she cannot do anything because her phone is dead and his phone is broken. So he will have to make do with spending the day without playing video games. They joke and smile a bit, but Taylor realizes how much his mother suffers from the loss of his father. Suddenly, the dog Charlie vomits, and when Ramona asks what Taylor fed the animal, he says it was leftover food from the previous day, as the dog food had run out. After Taylor takes the dog outside, Ramona has a brief memory of the day of the accident, when suddenly Taylor catches her attention to say that there is a woman in black, sitting in a chair in their yard, something like a specter. Ramona goes to take a look through the window, while Taylor tries to scare his sister with the unexpected presence of the visitor, who could be a zombie. Ramona reassures her daughter and then tells the dog to stop barking at the specter. Soon after, she goes out, saying she will talk to the strange woman because she must be lost. Charlie keeps barking, and still, Ramona continues walking toward the woman with her face covered. The woman does not respond to Ramona's call, forcing her to come even closer. The specter speaks for the first time and asks how she ended up there, which confuses Ramona. What appears to be an older woman asks Ramona her full name since she can see the ring on her finger. Ramona does not answer, and upon hearing that the woman seems fine and does not need help, she asks her to leave her property. The stranger asks if Ramona has ever asked someone to be strong at any moment, but the woman does not respond to the question and states that her husband will soon arrive. However, the woman in black claims that Ramona's husband will not come home. She shows familiarity with Ramona's life and her family, even pointing to the damaged vehicle. This frightens Ramona, as the stranger does not identify herself, yet knows about her life and her losses. When her children come outside, Ramona orders them to go back inside, and at that moment, the specter says that those children are ripe for being eaten. Scared, Ramona orders the specter to leave, but instead, the stranger says that she only answered Ramona's request and states that today is the long-awaited day. She shows her hands stained with blood, and hastily seeing that, Ramona rushes to a place in the house. As she passes in front of the hen house, she notices that all the chickens have been killed. Taylor sees his mother going to her vehicle, but it does not start, and the battery is not charging her phone. Taylor watches what is happening without understanding, and while Charlie barks, the woman in black moves her hands. A shadow appears beneath the dog, and suddenly he stops barking. When Taylor decides to go to his mother, she comes back and closes the entrance door, claiming that the woman is just a lost stranger, and she had to go to the vehicle just to grab a flashlight. Taylor asks what they really talked about, but Ramona invents some excuses and continues closing the doors. A few minutes later, while mother and daughter eat ice cream, Taylor observes the woman in black still standing in their yard, and suspicious that the specter might be dangerous, he asks Ramona to get his father's gun. If she does not do it, he will go get it himself. Upset, Ramona tells the boy to go to his room, and receiving a no in response, she breaks a glass cup. Still wanting to protect his family, he positions himself in front of the window and watches the stranger. Ramona comes to talk to her son, but Annie approaches them and says that the woman is closer to the house. When they look at her again, they confirm that. Later on, the woman's shadow seems to be alive and moves up onto the damaged vehicle, and the vehicle lowers as if something very heavy were on it. Ramona looks at her wound, while Taylor has fallen asleep in the chair, and Annie does her homework. Seeing that everything is very calm, Ramona checks where the woman is. Not hearing the dog barking, she goes out to call him. She finds the chain stretched on the ground leading to the dog's house, as if it had been broken. However, when she approaches the end and lifts it, she realizes that it is buried in the ground. She then begins to pull it out. When Ramona fully retrieves it, she discovers that the dog is no longer tied up. Minutes later, Taylor wakes up, and this time it is Ramona who is tired. but now she has a knife with her. Taylor tells his mother that they can go to the neighbor's house, which is a few minutes away, and call the police from there. However, Ramona cannot drive with her leg in its condition, but the boy says that he can drive the car, as his father taught him a little. Nevertheless, Ramona will not allow it, as Taylor is not old enough to drive. The boy, wanting to do something to help, asks to go to a nearby farm that is a few kilometers away, but again his mother says no. Upset, the boy tells her that she is acting irrationally and starts banging his ball against the wall of the room, which irritates Ramona. Letting her fury take over, she grabs the knife, perhaps thinking of something bad. Fortunately, she stands up, takes the boy's ball, and throws it outside the house. The mother ends up taking out her anger on little Annie for the girl misspelling names. Here we realize that family living together after the loss of the father has become a bit destabilized, and Taylor always ends up being left out and without his mother's affection. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, Ramona sees herself with her daughter, and suddenly she drives the knife into Annie, but fortunately, it is just an illusion, and it was only the pillow that was the victim of the blow. Suddenly, Annie, being in the kitchen, screams. Fortunately, the little girl just hurt her foot stepping on something, so Ramona takes her to tend to the wound. Taylor stays to watch the specter, which hasn't moved again. Tired of waiting and doing nothing, he decides to go out and takes an iron rod with him. The boy leaves through his mother's painting room, and after he leaves, we see that on the door there is a painting of a woman dressed in black with her face covered, similar to the woman in the yard. Taylor searches for his dog and eventually sees that there are bloodstains in the barn. Even scared, he runs to where the car is, always keeping an eye on the position of the woman in black. He gets in the car and tries to start it. When he looks toward the specter, he is startled to not find her sitting in the chair. On the other hand, we see that she surrounds the garage. Hearing something, the boy looks outside and sees a large shadow looming over the accident car. The wind blows the tarp and uncovers the vehicle, revealing the severity of the accident. Taylor is startled by the little noise and ends up seeing the specter's image in the mirror, which soon disappears. He realizes that someone is outside and watches the shadow get closer. Suddenly, he strikes out but nearly hits his mother. Ramona angrily tells him to go back inside the house, while at the same time we see the creepy specter still sitting in the chair. Back inside the house, Taylor questions his mother about their situation, how the car is not working, and she knew, and he asks once more who the woman is in their yard. The boy confronts his mother, questioning what she is hiding from them. He reveals that he saw the fate of the animals and is sure that his mother knows who the woman is. Ramona says she is trying to protect them, but the boy denies this, telling little Annie that they should not listen to their mother as she takes medication to go crazy. Enraged, Ramona throws a container at him, and tired of adhering to his mother's wrong decisions, he enters his father's room and locks himself inside. He then finds the safe that contains his father's gun. While Ramona tries to make him open the door, little Annie observes the woman in black. When Ramona enters her room to go through the other door, she ends up tripping, and Annie, hearing the fall, does not notice that the woman has approached the house. Taylor manages to open the safe and takes the gun, which has only one bullet. The boy manages to lock his mother in the room and tells his sister not to open the door. He then goes outside and warns the stranger to leave his property in 10 seconds, as he could legally shoot her. As he is about to finish the countdown, the specter stands up and approaches him without hesitation. She lifts her veil and shows her face. We see that it is a woman not very old. While Ramona calls her daughter to open the door for her, the specter further terrifies the boy using her living shadow and approaches him, saying that his mother lied about everything and did not tell the truth of the night of the accident. A few minutes later, Annie opens the door for her mother to come out, but Taylor is already there with them and asks his sister to step away from Ramona. Taylor confronts his mother about what she said regarding the accident that killed his father. She tells that the road was wet and that he lost control of the vehicle, but he knows that is not true. Then she begins to explain. That night, the couple was having a romantic dinner until the conversation turned to the new house, where David says that everyone was happy in the place. However, Ramona was the only one who was not. She expresses her frustration of being in the new house doing everything for everyone while she did not feel well. She states that she can no longer stand her life and wants to leave, but David calmly says that they can resolve it together and fix the disagreements of life. However, Ramona says that perhaps their relationship could not be fixed. Upset, she grabs the car keys and leaves the restaurant, not allowing David to drive the vehicle. Moments later, she becomes distracted on the road, and for a brief second sees the figure of the specter, and then crashes head-on with another car. Back in reality, Ramona says that David had a perfect vision for the family, but she did not see that. Outside the house, the specter can hear everything, and its shadow begins to move toward the residence. Suddenly, Annie witnesses Taylor's ball being thrown inside, and she is startled by such a scene. Then the shadow that entered the house begins to move objects, leaving little Annie scared. When the shadow closes the door, Annie looks at the ceiling and observes the terrifying shadow. Her scream alerts Taylor and Ramona, who immediately run to where she is. However, the live and macabre shadow begins to knock everything around them over and does not allow them to exit the room. When suddenly the apparition manages to lift the knife, but unexpectedly the blade falls as soon as Taylor begins to close the curtains. They are frightened and move upstairs, while the specter's shadow continues to follow them. They climb to the attic, but even there they do not escape the evil being. The shadow grabs and drags little Annie. Fortunately, her brother blocks the entrance of light through the slat of the window, halting the attack. The family appears to be safe, but the day is ending, and now the darkness of night is beginning to take over. Not being hindered by the night, the evil that pursues them continues to scare the trio, trying to enter the room and banging on the external walls and ceiling. Suddenly, the family sees a dark humanoid shadow in the corner, and when Taylor lights up the area with the flashlight, they do not see anything. However, the chair the woman sat in is there. Taylor is fearful of the apparition, but soon realizes that what they saw was real, as the malevolent being is behind his mother. The specter can touch the objects and knocks the flashlight over, forcing Ramona to grab a golf club to try to hit it. The mother falls, and Taylor tries to help her, but is soon knocked down as well. Annie manages to grab the flashlight and illuminate the environment, but only sees the strange woman in physical form, whose face is injured. However, what appears to be her mother is now the shadow on the wall. The being approaches the little girl, saying that she is her dear mother and will not hurt her. Taylor only observes the scene without doing anything. Suddenly, the dark being, embracing the little girl, disappears into the darkness with Annie. Alone in the room, he notices that his mother is back. They see that the flashlight's light flickers on the floor below. Wanting to have his daughter back, Ramona and her son decide to go down and look for her. Seeing that the light has moved, Ramona says she will go alone, and Taylor gives her David's lighter. Ramona reaches a compartment and finds a narrow door that leads to a strange place. Hearing her daughter's voice, she enters the dark hallway. Crossing it, she finds herself at the end in a room and sees her husband lying down. She lies down with him, enjoying the sensation of feeling him again. However, upon seeing the tattoo on his arm in reverse, she observes that everything around her is the same way. Suddenly, David covers her face with a blanket and suffocates her. When Ramona regains consciousness, she finds herself in the specter's place, in her backyard. She sees herself communicating with her and asks the same question she heard at the beginning. How did you get there? Soon she tries to pull the veil from her face, and when she succeeds, she finds herself sitting in the chair in the attic. This time we see her as if she were the mysterious woman calling for Annie. When she grabs her daughter, the scene shifts to the room, where she holds Annie in her arms and wakes her up. Taylor enters the room, and when Ramona sees something, she asks her son to take his sister away from there. She grabs the gun and points it at the dark corner. The dark being then emerges from the darkness, and both stand facing each other. The woman in black says she is there to help Ramona, just as she asked. When confronted about the reality of the facts, we discover that Ramona discarded all the bullets except one, with the sole intention of putting an end to her suffering. Ramona states that she would never think of something so bad since she has children. However, the being claims that for weeks, Ramona prayed for her to be there, and thus the result of her mental desires materialized to help her with what she longed for so much. Ramona lowers the gun and reflects on what the being tells her. Asking if her children will be okay, the specter of the woman shows her their future, should she free them. Unfortunately, the depressed mother makes her choice, following the guidance of the physical manifestation of her illusions. However, she states that she will see her children first. She descends the stairs and finds the kids. Ramona tells them to go to the neighbor's farm, and at this moment it is already dark, and the children have to leave with only the flashlight. After her children depart, Ramona rises to the attic, sits in the chair, and prepares for something horrible. The malignant being, sensing her fear, approaches and aims the gun at her body. Minutes later, her children return home, and fortunately, she did not choose the worst for herself. Next, the united family exits the residence, and sometime later, they reach the neighbor's farm, just as the power returns. Charlie is still alive and rejoins the family. Back in Ramona's room, we see one of her depressing paintings, and her name is written backward, showing that the reality we just witnessed is a false reality, and that everything may be a living experience of Ramona in a disturbing limbo, where everything is about to repeat itself for her.